Commander Talia Jaxon stared at the holographic display, her 4 arms crossed tightly against her chest. The pulsing red dots of Scourge vessels had multiplied, again. Damn it all. 3 more colonies lost in the Proxima sector, announced senior strategist Bentic, his gelatinous form quivering with what passed for anxiety among the Glubian species. The Scourge has adapted to our phase shield technology. They're consuming faster than we can evacuate. Jaxon sighed, rubbing her temple ridges. And the Council's brilliant response? More meetings, Bentic replied, voice dripping with undisguised contempt. They're debating whether to surrender the outer systems to buy time. As if the Scourge understands the concept of borders. The command center buzzed with frantic activity as technicians from 17 species worked in desperate harmony. The Galactic Alliance, proud union of the 30 most advanced civilizations in the known universe, was being systematically dismantled by mindless devourers who operated with terrifying efficiency. We've tried everything, Jaxon muttered, flicking through battle reports. Antimatter bombs? Eaten. Temporal distortion? Adapted within hours. Our finest telepaths? Their brains turned to soup. That's when the idea hit her. The terrible, wonderful, absolutely insane idea. Get me a secure channel to the Council, she ordered. 10 minutes later, the 29 Council members stared at her in varying states of shock and outrage. Absolutely not, sputtered Councillor Plex, his antennae rigid with alarm. The humans? Have you lost your mineral deposits, Jaxon? They're barely space-capable, added Councillor Zenva. They still use chemical rockets, for Star's sake. Jaxon leaned forward. They're also the only species that evolved on a Class 12 death world. Their biology is resilient. And creative. And terrifying. They nuke their own planet for fun, shrieked Plex. Exactly, Jaxon smiled. The Scourge has never encountered anything like them. The quarantine exists for a reason, Councillor Drav intoned gravely. The humans are unpredictable, violent, and their entertainment broadcasts suggest deeply disturbing psychological tendencies. More disturbing than total extinction? Jaxon countered. We have nothing left to lose. Against her better judgment, Jaxon found herself laughing. What's the worst they could do? Ignore us? We're already doomed. The Council reluctantly authorized the desperate gambit. As Jaxon composed the SOS message, she wondered if humans were as dangerous as the stories claimed. The message would take weeks to reach Earth, and who knew if they would, or could, respond. Message away, reported Communications Officer Trell, looking nervous. May the cosmos forgive us. Jaxon nodded solemnly. If this works, the Scourge will wish we'd never made this call. She paused, then added with a wry smile, and honestly? So might we. 3 weeks after sending the SOS, Alliance headquarters resembled a funeral parlor more than a command center. 5 more systems had fallen. The Scourge advanced on all fronts, their swarm ships multiplying with each world they consumed. Well, Commander Jaxon, sneered Admiral Graz, his scales flaring with contempt, your human saviors appear to be otherwise engaged. Perhaps they're too busy fighting each other over their primitive territorial disputes? Before Jaxon could defend her desperate gambit, the proximity alert blared. Unidentified vessel at system edge, shouted Trell, his voice cracking. It's not matching any known configuration. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a spacecraft that made several council members burst into nervous laughter. It was angular, asymmetrical, and, by Alliance standards, offensively inelegant. That's it? Admiral Graz chuckled. One ship? With visible propulsion exhausts and... Are those actual windows? How quaint. They're hailing us, Trell announced. The screen shifted to show a human female in a dark uniform, her face disconcertingly symmetrical. This is Captain Diana Reeves of the United Earth vessel Pathfinder. We received your distress call. Sorry for the delay, had to make sure it wasn't a trap. You folks look like you're having a rough day. Jaxon stepped forward. Commander Talia Jaxon of the Galactic Alliance. Captain Reeves, we appreciate your response, but forgive me, we expected more than a single scout ship. Captain Reeves grinned, displaying alarmingly white teeth. Who says it's just me? She leaned forward. Now, tell me everything about these Scourge creatures. What's their response time to tactical changes? How do they communicate during combat? Have you tried targeting their supply chains rather than their combat vessels? The council chamber erupted with dismissive murmurs. Supply chains, scoffed Councillor Zenva. They're a hive mind that consumes entire worlds. They don't have supply chains. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Everything needs energy. Everything has logistics. Even insects. This is absurd, Admiral Graz declared. We've lost our finest battlecruisers against the Scourge, and we're supposed to accept tactical advice from a species that still uses fossil fuels. Captain Reeves smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. Your finest battlecruiser wasn't built by humans. She tapped something on her console. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to make a call home. You might want to watch your long-range sensors in about 45 minutes. The communication ended, leaving the Alliance leadership staring at each other in confusion. What did she mean by that? Jaxon wondered aloud. Admiral Graz snorted. Nothing. They're bluffing. One primitive ship against the Scourge? It's almost pitiable. 43 minutes later, the Pathfinder did something no Alliance tactician would have considered. Instead of retreating to safety, it accelerated directly toward a Scourge scout cluster. What are they doing? Gasped Bentik. That's suicide. The command center watched in horrified fascination as the human vessel fired what appeared to be, impossibly, solid metal projectiles at relativistic speeds. The first Scourge ship disintegrated. Then another. And another. They're using kinetic weapons? Admiral Graz sputtered. Like barbarians throwing rocks? Before anyone could respond, the long-range sensors began shrieking. The technicians' expressions shifted from confusion to disbelief to terror. Hyperspace ruptures. Thousands of them. All human signatures. The main view screen couldn't display all the incoming vessels. They emerged in perfect formation, warships, carriers, support craft, a fleet that dwarfed anything the Alliance had ever assembled. Captain Reeves' face appeared on the command channel, looking supremely satisfied. Sorry about the wait. Had to make sure our intel was accurate before committing the main force. Main force? Jaxon repeated numbly. There must be over 4,000 ships. 5,327, actually, corrected Reeves. Plus support drones. Standard response package for a Class 3 extinction level threat within our operational radius. Admiral Graz had turned an unusual shade of gray. You sent one ship. To scout? Obviously. Reeves sounded genuinely puzzled. You don't commit your fleet without proper reconnaissance. That would be reckless. The human armada spread out in attack formations unlike anything Alliance strategists had conceptualized. Within minutes, Scourge vessels began to fall by the dozens. But your message, stammered Councillor Zenva. It mentioned a single vessel answering our plea. Oh, that. Reeves laughed. No, we never send just one of anything if we can help it. That's a good way to get killed. We humans have a saying, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Though personally, I prefer, never bring a gunfight to a thermonuclear exchange. For the first time since the war began, the red dots representing Scourge forces moved backward, retreating from the unexpected onslaught. They're running away, whispered Bentik, voice tinged with awe. The Scourge is actually retreating. Commander Jaxon watched the battle unfold, a mix of relief and terror washing over her. The humans had arrived, yes. But their casual deployment of overwhelming firepower raised an uncomfortable question: what if they had come as conquerors instead of saviors? Captain Reeves, she asked carefully, is this normal for your species? This? Reeves glanced at something off-screen. No, we're being quite restrained. We didn't bring the planet crackers. Within 72 hours, the Scourge ceased to exist as a galactic threat. The human fleet had deployed what they casually referred to as pest control measures, a combination of targeted computer viruses that fragmented the hive mind's communication network, followed by specialized nanites that converted Scourge biomass into inert particles. You didn't destroy them, Council Representative Plex observed during the formal victory ceremony. You turned them into dust. Recycling is important, replied Fleet Admiral Marcus Torres with a shrug. Wasting perfectly good carbon compounds would be inefficient. The Alliance Council chamber, once filled with despair, now buzzed with equal parts gratitude and trepidation. These humans had accomplished in 3 days what the combined might of 30 advanced civilizations couldn't achieve in 2 years. Regarding our new partnership, Admiral Torres continued, sliding a simple data crystal across the table. Our terms. Counselor Zenva accepted it with trembling appendages. We are prepared to offer significant concessions, of course. Technology transfers, resource rights, territorial. Just read it, Torres interrupted. The council members huddled around the display, expressions morphing from fear to confusion. This can't be right, muttered Admiral Graz. You only want mutual defense pacts? Open trade routes? Cultural exchanges? And cooking lessons? Your pan-fried Zellian squid is out of this world, Torres grinned. Also, we'd like to study your faster-than-light communication technology. Ours is still a bit laggy. Commander Jaxon watched from the back of the chamber, struggling to reconcile the terrifying efficiency of human warfare with their surprisingly reasonable diplomatic demands. Captain Reeves sidled up beside her. Your face says it all, Commander. Expected us to demand half the galaxy as payment? Something like that, Jaxon admitted. You could have. That's not how friendship works, Reeves replied. At least not for us. We protect our friends, we trade fairly with our friends, and occasionally, we get drunk with our friends and sing embarrassing songs. And your enemies? Reeves' smile turned predatory. We don't keep enemies long. They either become friends, or they become historical footnotes. Later, as the formal alliance was signed, Jaxon found herself explaining the humans to a bewildered Bentik. They're paradoxical. Utterly ruthless in battle, yet remarkably restrained in victory. They crave connection almost as much as they love explosions. Bentik's gelatinous form quivered thoughtfully. The moral seems clear enough. Never make the Deathworlders angry. Yes, Jaxon agreed, watching Torres enthusiastically sampling alien delicacies. But definitely make them your friends.